The cold rain bit into my skin as I lay dying in that dark alley. 10 years of unconditional love. 10 years of playing the loyal dog for Su Qingying. And all it brought me was a knife to the gut from her rival. As my sight faded, I saw her looking down at me with absolute indifference. "You were just convenient, Chen," she whispered. Then, total darkness. Suddenly, a sharp slap on the table jerked me awake. The smell of expensive cigars filled my lungs. I was sitting in a luxury suite, facing Su Qingying's arrogant father. On the glass table lay a check for 10 million yuan. In my past life, I tore that check in half to prove my pure love, earning only their disgust and a decade of humiliation. This time, my eyes cleared. The obsession was dead. I casually reached out, grabbed the check, and folded it into my pocket. I smiled warmly at her father. "Thank you, Chairman Su. Consider your daughter free of me." Su Qingying froze, her icy composure cracking for the very first time. "Chenin, are you insane?" Su Qingying's voice trembled with rare anger as I stood up to leave. "You traded 10 years of our connection for money? You really are just a greedy coward." I stopped at the doorway, turning around with a calm, pitying smile. 10 years. Miss Su, it was 3 years of me acting like your shadow, and 7 years of your family using my intellect to build your tech empire. This 10 million isn't a payout, it's back pay with interest. Her body shivered as the words hit home. Without waiting for her response, I pulled out my phone in front of everyone, deleted her contact, snapped the SIM card in half, and dropped it into my champagne glass. Stepping out into the night air, I felt lighter than ever. The foolish simp who died for love was gone, equipped with 10 years of future financial knowledge, stock market crashes, and tech breakthroughs. I had the ultimate cheat code. Love was a trap, but money was absolute power. My real game was just beginning. I didn't waste a single second. The next morning, the 10 million was cashed into my brokerage account. Using my memories of the past timeline, I went all in on an obscure, failing microchip startup named Tongfei Tech. Everyone in the trading market laughed, calling me an amateur throwing away a fortune. 3 days later, Tongfei Tech announced a revolutionary patent. The stock surged by 3,000% overnight, while Wall Street panic bought. I quietly cashed out with over 300 million yuan in net liquid capital. I immediately leased the top floor of the prestigious World Financial Center in the metropolis of Modu, founding Dynasty Capital. I poached the sharpest analysts using raw cash and ruthlessness. When seasoned Wall Street veterans doubted my young face, I predicted 3 consecutive market crashes within 2 weeks, shorting the market to net another $50 million. In less than a month, Dynasty Capital became the most feared predator in the financial hub. The poor college student had vanished. In his place stood an untouchable financial mogul. A month later, I attended the prestigious Asian Business Summit as a VIP guest, dressed in a custom Italian suit with a Patek Philippe on my wrist. I walked through the gilded halls, flanked by my private security detail. Across the room, I spotted familiar faces, Su Qingying and her fiancé, Zhao Hui, the heir of the powerful Zhao Group. They were desperately trying to secure funding for their failing joint venture. The moment Zhao Hui saw me, his face twisted in disbelief. "Chenin." Zhao Hui marched over, sneering. "How did a homeless street dog get into a high-level summit like this? Did you waste all that 10 million just to buy a fake suit?" I didn't even look at him. I raised my wine glass toward the host of the summit, Hong Kong's biggest billionaire, who personally walked over to greet me as an equal. Zhao Hui's laughter died instantly. The room fell silent as top CEOs lined up just to exchange business cards with me. "Zhao Hui, your Zhao Group's overseas supply chains collapsed yesterday, didn't they?" I said softly, taking a sip of my drink. "And your chip agency rights in Europe were secretly bought out this morning." Zhao Hui's face drained of all color. How? How do you know that?" "That's classified." "Because I was the one who bought them," I replied coldly. "Using the very 10 million your father-in-law gave me. I orchestrated your family's bankruptcy." Panic erupted. Zhao Hui lunged at me in rage, but my bodyguards slammed him onto the polished marble floor. Su Qingying rushed forward, Her eyes filled with shock, terror, and a strange hint of regret. She looked at me as if looking at a complete stranger. "Chenan, stop," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "Why are you doing this to us?" I leaned down to Zhao Hui, whisper thin, "Business is war. When you pushed me into that alley in my past life, you should have made sure I stayed dead." I walked away without looking back, leaving them in ruin. The fall of the Zhao group sent shockwaves through the market. But I wasn't finished. The Su group was next. In my previous life, I knew all the internal accounting flaws and hidden debts of Chairman Su's company. I launched a massive short-selling campaign against the Su group. Within 48 hours, their stock plummeted to penny stock levels. Creditors swarmed their headquarters, demanding immediate liquidation. That evening, rain poured over the city. As I stepped out of Dynasty Capital's tower, a soaked figure blocked my path. It was Su Qingying. Her former icy elegance was completely shattered. She fell to her knees in the cold rain, tears mixing with the water on her face. "Chenan, I beg you, spare my father," she sobbed, holding out a company transfer file. "He's in the hospital with a heart attack. I'll give you everything. I'll even marry you. Just save us." I stood under my umbrella, looking down at her with cold indifference. The woman who once treated me like trash was now begging at my feet. "Marriage?" I let out a sharp, mocking laugh that cut through the sound of the thunder. "Miss Su, your entire family's net worth isn't even enough to pay the monthly rent for my office floor." I grabbed the transfer contract from her trembling hands and tossed it straight into the street drain. "In my past life, I died in the rain for you. In this life, your tears don't even register as noise to me." Her eyes widened in horror and confusion at the mention of a past life. But she knew it was over. The next day, Dynasty Capital officially acquired 51% controlling interest in the Su Group. I walked into their executive boardroom, taking the head seat that once belonged to her father. I signed the order to strip the entire Su family of their assets, banning them from the industry forever. They were evicted from their luxury mansions, forced to move into the exact moldy slum apartment I once lived in. The poetic justice was complete. Standing on the top-floor balcony of my penthouse, looking out over the panoramic skyline of the Huangpu River, I swirled the red wine in my glass. The Su family and Zhao group were reduced to mere memories, forgotten casualties in my ascension. My assistant walked in, placing a confidential file on the desk. "President Chen. The Shen family from the capital. They, dominant force in artificial intelligence, has noticed our expansion. The heiress, Shen Ruoshi, wants to challenge us." I picked up the file, a sharp, confident smirk playing on my lips. In my past life, Shen Ruoshi was an untouchable titan of industry. In this life, she was just my next stepping stone. I threw the obsession of love into the ash heap of history. I had rewritten my destiny from a pathetic simp into an invincible financial monarch. The past was paid in full, and my true empire had only just begun.